Okay, so hi Rima. I'm really happy to have you here on our Kai interview.
Thank you so much, Ziv. It's very nice to be here. Thank you so much for writing to me and for the opportunity to connect with you today.
Our pleasure. It's really an honor. And let's start from a really basic open
Sure,
question. Just tell us a bit about yourself. Who are you?
sure. I'm Reema Chhabra, and I currently live in Toronto. Who am I? If I had to use a couple of adjectives to define myself or to describe myself, I would say that I'm unconventional. I am creative and artistic, and I'm empathetic and helpful. These are some ways in which I could define myself or describe myself.
So unconventional is interesting. What do you mean when you say unconventional?
I think as far back as I know myself, I've always been someone who is non-linear with the way I do things. I've always been someone who's been quick in thinking on my feet. And whenever I'm faced with a situation, I ask myself, how can I not allow myself to be impacted by the same thing in the same way again? And I realized that. Our thinking is so important. Our thinking determines how happy we are in life. And I was recently reading a quote that said, "We suffer more from imagination than we do from reality." And so I've always been someone who thought differently, and my approach to life has been very different from people in the way that I don't fit into a box.
So how did that happen? Like what happens in life that you become someone that is non-linear, doesn't fit in the box, do things differently?
That's a very good question. So there's two parts to this answer. Number one, I think it's just me inherently as a person. I've always known myself to question things in the way that people do not question things. I've always looked at trying to understand something in a deeper way. The second thing is basically just my life experiences. I grew up in a dysfunctional, toxic, abusive family. My father wasn't really supportive of us, and he was not a very pleasant person to be around. And the question that I would ask myself is, why is he the way he is? And I wanted to get a deeper understanding of people's psychology, how the brain works, and that's what I've done throughout my life. And I've always looked to see how I could change my path from what destiny or life had just given for me. So I've had to work on myself. I've had to change the way I thought because I grew up in another environment, and I realized that that's not going to be effective, and I had to change the way I lived or the way I thought in order to lead a better life or to get out of where I was and live in a way that I feel like, okay, this is it, this is how I want to live my life.
Really interesting. So what you say, it's interesting. Many people find struggle in the life as as a very powerful thing for growth.
Yes,
But for others, struggle is the way for them to go down. Um,
yes,
what do you think about struggle? What made the combination of struggle and your personality or other ways
yeah.
aspects of how you grew that made you become like to grow
Who
out
I
of it?
am, yeah. The way I define struggle in life and the pain that you go through is just when you start working out for the first time, you're going inside the gym and you're lifting weights, and you actually experience pain all over your body. But the question you need to ask yourself is that pain going to help you grow or not? And the answer to that question is yes. So whenever you go through any suffering in life, whenever you go through any pain in life, you do know that self growth is right around the corner. And how you achieve that is by perceiving or changing the way you think of what just happened to you and what you can learn from it. So whenever something bad happens to me, whenever something happens to me that I did not expect, or it's an unpleasant experience, I don't let that pull me down. I'm just like, what did I learn from this? And the moment I have that answer, I am not, I don't regret that anymore.
So it's a mindset, to be in a mindset that
Definitely.
accept.
Like, I'll give you an example. When I was 19 years old, I've had like clashes with my parents. My father had his own set of principles, so he wasn't ready to support me with my education. And I had a choice. I had a choice whether I would continue to be dependent and let my future go away, or I had a choice if I could just start working. So at about 19 years of age, I started working. I funded my own education, and literally that was the best thing that could have happened to me, because after I started working, I grew in my professional career. I had enough support system from the friends that I met. I was able to stabilize myself financially, and eventually I was able to come here to Toronto. And it all started with me working when I was 19. And the catalyst for that was my dad refusing to support me financially. I always believe, and I always tell people, if you like where you end up, you cannot sulk about what got you there.
Can you, what do you think about growth? Is it really connected only to struggle? Do we need struggle to grow, or can we grow without struggle?
Yes, yes. So there's this, I don't remember the name of the philosopher, and I was listening to a podcast, and the quote said, if I could wish the worst thing upon my enemy, I would wish that they get whatever they want whenever they want.
Hmm. Wow.
And that just blew my mind. I had to take a moment to grasp the depth of what I just had heard. And I realized that if you get whatever you want whenever you want, you don't have a reason to get out of bed, you know.
I totally agree. I totally agree.
Yes, and I realized today that there were certain things that I wanted in my life at one point in time, and today I don't have those, and I couldn't be happier. Like, if in the moment you live up till a certain point in life, you're only looking at life up until that point in time, and you're like, I really wish I could get this. I really want this. This is what I need in life. And then you live a little further, and then you look back, and you're like, that is not what I needed. Thank you, life, for not giving me that. So the struggle of life actually teaches you to appreciate what is truly, truly needed for you in order to grow in life. And it's not always received by getting whatever you want, because that comfort of, oh, everything is happy and nice, also takes away from your experiences in life. Like, when you struggle and when you go through something that is painful, you see someone else who goes through that, it also makes you empathetic towards the world.
So I'm going to ask you
So,
maybe the last question in this,
sure,
like in this line, but
sure,
you
sure.
know, I can't agree more to all what you said. But when you're in the struggle, the
Hmm.
pain, the overwhelming, sometimes despair, the
Hmm.
reality with all its details, it's so difficult to tell yourself when you're in pain, yes, that's the that's the way for me to grow. What do you
Yeah,
do?
yeah.
How do you face it?
I actually tell myself, I pause wherever I am. So let's say and I'll share an example with you. It's extremely personal and makes me feel vulnerable, but I feel like I should share this with the world. So early 2020 and late 2019, I had to visit back home in India to attend my sister's wedding. But because it was January, I also had to I had to pay my lease for the apartment that I'm living in. I had to book my tickets, and then I also had to take a couple of pay cuts because I did not have enough leaves. So I got to a point in my life where I had to face my worst fear, which is, should I keep money to eat food, or should I keep money to book my tickets for back home?
Hmm.
And in that moment, whenever that happens, I remind myself, I pause where I am in 2020 and I think back to maybe 2030 and I ask myself, if I get through this in 2030, this will not matter. I tell myself it's not going to be like this forever. And there is a phrase that I use in Hindi. It's connected to the idea of stoicism, but if I had to translate it for you, it would loosely be translated as "I will bear this too."
I will bear this too. I love it.
Yeah, yeah. And I just tell that to myself. And no matter what happens, I'm like, I'll just bear this too. Sure, life, just give me whatever you have. And I personally try to not resist life. Whatever happens, however it happens, however good or bad it is, I embrace it. And I ask myself, what can I do about this now? Because that was not in my control. There will always be things in life that will not be in my control. So, what am I going to do? And I realized that a lot of people do not do this. Whenever something bad, wrong, unexpected, or unpleasant happens in their life, there is this moment that they have where they are in denial, they are in shock. They do not want to move forward because they have not really comprehended what just happened to them. uh, what I do is whenever I am faced with a situation, even before that could happen, I think of all possible permutations and combinations, whether it is in my favor or not. And then I ask myself, am I ready for all of those possibilities? And that's when something goes wrong. And I always have this one category where I leave it uncertain, where I'm like, life is unexpected. You don't really know. And when that happens to me, I'm like, okay, I think I should accept whatever has happened and I should ask myself, what can I do about it now? So I don't stay in denial. I do not stay in shock. I do not resist whatever happens in life. I let it pass through me.
Powerful. That's really powerful.
Thank you so much.
Rima, let, we talked like about life now. Today,
Yeah.
what are you going to do today to make your day better?
I'm actually reading a book today. I recently found out that I could have a form of ADHD, which is a sort of an attention deficit disorder. It's a neurological disorder which keeps me away from focusing on things that I have to do. I have trouble keeping up with my tasks or staying organized, and I try to stay accountable to myself. But I've always known that I had to focus on this. So I'm actually taking time out for my mental health, trying to research about this, trying to get a better understanding of who I am and how I like to do things. Because there are a lot of things in life that you would want to change about yourself. I think differently. I want to know myself and manage myself.
So you're going to do something that might
Yes,
sound
I'm going
simple,
to.
but most people don't do it. You're going to take time for yourself.
I am, and I was at work a couple of days ago. I was talking to my manager and I said, "Can I take a few days off for my mental health?" And I feel like that's such a powerful thing to say, because to focus on yourself and to look inwards is so important. Because if I wasn't going to do that, I was going to be preoccupied with my work, with whatever I did. And my manager was actually appreciative and understanding enough to give me that time. So I feel like everybody should do that. If you feel like you're not in that space, you should always ask for some time. Because I had this new information that had come to light and I had to process everything. So I'm looking to understand myself a little further, and I'm looking to know what my quirks are so that I can manage those.
So, what is your daily habit to keep your mental health strong or in shape?
I actually spend a lot of time in solitude on my balcony, because I feel like self growth is not possible without introspection and pondering. Whenever something happens in life, I take time off. I'm sitting on my balcony all by myself and I ask, how's life? How are you doing? What just happened? How do you feel about it? If you were faced with the same situation again, what would you do differently? So I process these things very consciously. And that is why whenever I recall something unpleasant that has happened to me, I do not recall it with pain.
Mhm.
Because
It's
when you talk about it, you consciously process it and then you churn it out, you can always revisit without the negative feelings because you didn't allow it to be negative.
so in a way you are reflecting and reframing your experiences.
Yes, I try to reflect as much as possible. I read, I try to make comics and share my thoughts and ideas with the world. I make art to focus on art therapy for myself because I feel like in the moment when I'm working on anything creative, I just wither away. I am not of this world. I do not understand time. I do not understand this life. I'm just in some place where I find peace. So I try to focus on that.
Wonderful. Rima, thank you so much for being so open and vulnerable and kind to
Yeah,
share the way
you're
you perceive
welcome.
everything.
You're welcome, sir.
Um, is there anything that I didn't ask that you want to say? Any
I,
message that you want to?
yeah, I think you could ask what I do to share my ideas or make a difference in this world because there's something that I do.
Rima, I just wanted to ask you, what do you do to share your ideas and
So
thoughts?
I'm actually I'm a certified coach, and I used to work with a volunteering organization in the past that I also used to manage, and I realized that my experience of having been certified as a coach or also the way I think, people have recognized that and they would reach out to me for a perspective. So what I do is I coach people pro bono. It doesn't matter where they are in this world. If someone reaches out to me and we connect and we talk about why is it that they need help or what is it that they need help with, then I'm going to help them figure stuff out. Because when I went through something in my life, there was nobody to help me out. I would want to be able to help someone because I spend a lot of time researching, I spend a lot of time reading and going through an experience and then learning from it. I want to be able to pay it forward, make a difference, and share my knowledge and wisdom with the world. So at any given point in time, I coach at least 10 or 15 people, in different age groups. There are people who's 18 years old, there's people who's 34 years old or even above 40. And that's something that I always try to do. And the only thing that I need from them that I tell them is make sure you pay it forward sometime. So it doesn't matter you're 20, you're 30, you're 40, you're 50. Later on in life, you will find one person to be able to help in life. And I feel like if we do that as human beings, I help people only because they're human. I don't help them because I like them, because they are from my ethnicity, they are from my country, they speak the same language. None of it matters. I will help you because you're human, and you need to do that for another person at some point in time in your life.
That's that's wonderful, Rima. It's really I'm really happy
Thank you
that I
so
asked you this
much.
question.
Yes, I feel like we all need a purpose. I'm someone who's skeptical in my thinking. I neck deep into philosophy. When I sit in solitude, I think about what is the purpose of life? Who are we and why are we here? And there's a lot of things that do not make sense to me. What makes sense to me is art. What makes sense to me is helping people and to be able to share my knowledge. And I have adopted that to be the purpose of my life. So, for as long as I am alive, I will try to share my experiences, my knowledge. I will help people with being self aware because I'm also certified in an analysis that helps people identify how they like to work.
Hmm.
And that's one of my strengths, that's my forte. So I feel like anything that has to happen with growth in life starts with identification and self-awareness. And I want to do that and help as many people as possible to help them grow.
Amazing, Rima. Thank you so
Thank you.
much. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for asking me and for allowing me to share my thoughts and perspectives with you. So,
My pleasure. Bye for now.